I'm Janice Hossteiger. After 3 decades in the marketing business and many years of being an entrepreneur, I've learned a thing or two about marketing. Join me as we talk about marketing, small business, and life in between. Welcome to My Weekly Marketing. As a business owner, you know the things that your client needs the most, but they're the ones that they keep putting off or changing the subject about or swearing that they'll deal with the issues next month or next quarter. Well, it turns out that selling something people are actively avoiding is its own kind of art. And my guest today talks about it on a regular basis. Jermaine Ee built a business helping people face one of the most avoidable topics out there, creating a will. And what he's learned about getting people to say yes works whether you're selling gym memberships, nutrition, bookkeeping, or anything else that people would rather not think about doing. So grab your coffee as we talk about marketing and avoidance and all things business. Here's my chat with Jermaine. Hey, Jermaine, welcome to My Weekly Marketing.
Thanks for having me.
So your business started from a conversation with your mom, right, about her retirement. What was the moment in that conversation where you thought, this is a business, not just a family talk?
Well, the conversation happened about 2 months before that realization. So if I could take us back a little bit, it was over lunch at a place that we go to often. So it feels like a routine. But on this particular lunch, we talked about retirement. And I realized there's a indication in her voice that her fear of retirement isn't so much of anything to do with money, but rather the lack of certainty as to how much she has right now. So this lack of clarity was the insight that got me building this AI tool for her. Essentially, this was 2024, or 2025. So this was just a simple chat GPT that asked her questions about, what she had and the memories and the people she had in her life. And it wasn't until a few months later that I realized if I had these information, I can actually organize that into a legal document, a will. And that's where the business idea started.
Okay. How do you market to somebody who knows that they need to address something, but they don't want to face it?
Yeah, I study a lot of what the life insurance companies does and a lot of the other estate planning companies they do. And the truth is like it's a lot of education. I think if you kind of break it down back into the marketing terms, there's people who are aware of their problem and then people who are problem aware versus solution aware. And I think there's certainly out of the 360 or so million Americans, 70% of people don't have a will. And I'm going to go ahead and guess that out of that 70%, probably about half of them could benefit from one. And maybe a chunk of them are aware that they need one, but they don't know what the solutions are because it feels expensive. It feels heavy. It feels like going to attorney costs a lot. And so there's all this preconceived notion about what it means to have a legal document, a will, an estate plan. And our challenge really is to educate and simplify and really meet people where they're at when they think about these things.
I mean, we moved to Texas about 6 years ago, and we did not update our will or any of our legal documents. And it's something that we just are putting off because it's so uncomfortable. I think it's called cognitive dissonance, right? Something we don't want to deal with. What's the difference between like not ready to do it? Because we can always find excuses, right? Like, yeah, it's on the list. I've had it on my list for 6 years, right? But what's the difference between not ready and being scared?
Yeah, this is a topic that is deeply human. When we started this, I thought not having an estate plan was a socioeconomic thing. Rich people had wills, people who didn't have money didn't have wills. But what I come to realize, in talking to our users, is that it isn't pure. I think socioeconomics may be 10% of it, maybe 20. The other factors are, what do you believe about death your entire life? What do you believe about attorneys your entire life? or what experiences around you shaped how you thought about this topic? And it's so complex, right? It's like if someone who's recently been to a funeral and had heard about a probate challenge and a state infighting of families, they have a completely different assumptions about this topic. And the way we've learned to introduce this topic into more people's life is try to meet them where they're at. And what we realize is that people who are going through life changes, so moving, having a new home, new kids, loss of someone near them, or even new job, right? Because when you sign up for a new job, you enroll into insurance, and it's the first time in a year that someone's asked you, who is your beneficiary? It's something we don't think about, right? So we try to meet them where they're at and try to lower the barrier of the lingo, no legal jargons.
Yeah, that's interesting because I feel like in our case, it's more like it's 100% guarantee that my husband and I are going to die. I mean, we know that that's going to happen. We know that Texas is a different state. We moved from Minnesota where the laws are different. And prior to that, we were in Wisconsin where the laws are different. So it's really a matter of updating it every time we make a move across state lines. But I think it's really interesting because I think we have to do some soul searching to really understand what's holding us back sometimes. So what messaging have you found that really makes people lean in and start listening?
Yeah, I'm actually curious if you want to go there to try to diagnose, what is it that is making you put this
Oh
off, you and
gosh.
your husband. and it's actually as simple as it's just not top of mind, right? It's like
Right.
I go through my day, things get really busy, and the thought of picking up the phone and calling an attorney, or even an app, right? Just
Yeah.
on my
Right.
phone, just feels like, oh gosh, I'm gonna go do laundry first. I'm gonna go do something, really
Right.
anything else first. Yeah,
Well, it's that urgency plus it's, is it urgent? Is it important? It's important, yes, but it's not urgent because neither of us are sick or, not that we're getting younger, but yeah, I think what you were saying is true. We put it off.
I mean, in some ways, you're confirming something that we believe when we think about marketing. We think that the way we're doing this is to just tell stories. Part of my strategy, my go to market, is to go on podcasts, is to go on places where people talk about stories of their lives. I don't know if this podcast is out yet, but I did an interview recently with the National Museum of Funerals. It's in
Oh,
Houston. It's kind of
gosh. Okay.
I've never heard of it, but the entire museum essentially documents and shares how people approach end of life and the stories of how our perspective of end of life shifts. There's one thing that's very interesting to me when I started this journey is I am Asian American, I'm Chinese American. In my culture, we tend to live in multi-generation household. So it's very common for me to have my kids and my parents in the same house. But what I realized in the American society, which I am equally a part of, born and raised in LA, people are dying alone. People are spending more and more time into their old age being alone. And I realized when I surface these stories, it helps people question some of the assumptions that they have. Why do we want a picket fence house when we're older? Why shouldn't we be closer to the people we love? If that
Mm.
means giving up a front yard and backyard, right? So I think it's these stories about how humanity is shifting, and maybe we'll take it a step down from humanity. Let's keep it simple. How we as people, individuals, are learning more about what we love and what we don't love. I think these stories are what uh, will get people out of their chair and do something.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So what role do you think trust plays in all of this when you're selling something difficult or just having an uncomfortable conversation?
I think it's the only thing a company like mine has. We
Mm.
look at our data of the people that come into our app. 30% of them, if they make it through the first two questions, which is what is your name and what state do you live in, they tend to make it through all the way. And if they drop off at the first two questions, the 70% of them, uh, most of the time it's an indication of the lack of trust or the lack of desire. It depends on, how they come into the flow. But what we realize is that if at the point where we ask them for their name and their state, we haven't done enough to gain their trust, whether by design, copy, or the journey that they've been on from a meta ad to our landing page or a podcast to our landing page, then we lose them. And so trust really is the only thing that we're measuring.
Interesting. So there are certain professions, a will, obviously, things related to death, life insurance. These are all in that category of things that we want to avoid. There's other things, of course, too. There are a lot of things that we avoid without even realizing it. Hard conversations with people, anything that involves a hard conversation. For some people, it's visiting a doctor. I see it in people who don't want to deal with their marketing issues. Can you out logic avoidance is really what I'm trying to get to. Is there something that actually moves someone from I'm not ready to, okay, let's do this?
It's interesting where my brain went with this question. I thought of this, how for the past 10 years, we talked about social media, how it's pulling us to the left and to the right. It's making us all more extreme. I actually think of AI as the opposite of it. I know there's a lot of negativity around AI right now, but if you really think about what AI is doing, it's a predictive tool, right? It's like you tell it A, B, and it's predicting that you want to say A, B, C, D.
Right,
So
right.
what that does is instead of giving you the extremes of the edge cases, it's pulling us back to the center. And I think that is so helpful when we're trying to think and brainstorm and gain more clarity, right? So one of the things that I like to do is I have an AI project set up. The instruction that I gave it is every time I give you a list of tasks that I have today, help me prioritize based on the ones with the highest impact and based on the things that I feel good doing. So then I can immediately take a look at this list and visually tell myself, okay, if I'm feeling a little lazy right now, after lunch, I'm having food coma, maybe I want to tackle the task that is making me feel good, right? So then
Right.
I'll look at that list and I'll do that first because I know self-awareness that that's going to help me kickstart this gear of wanting to do things. So I think similarly to marketing, I have probably 20 posts that I should be making. I probably have a few articles I should finalize and start posting on LinkedIn. And one thing I found really helpful is just to use a tool like a simple AI, whether it's Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT, to help us sort out the thoughts in our head, to simplify them so that it allows us to move forward without so much clutter.
You said something really interesting there. It's like taking that first step. I think that's huge because I notice it just even myself and other people. For example, if I go to a conference or an event of some sort, whatever the topic was at that time, it brings momentum to it, right? So those baby steps, like, oh, he's talking about this and he's right, I should really do more of that. Or maybe if I took one step in the right direction, an easy step, something that you like that would move people further along. I'm just thinking in terms of like marketing. Social media is a tough one for me. I hate getting in front of the camera. I hate recording. I hate doing it. I really do. But, being in marketing, I realize it has its value, right? So how do I get, for example, myself to say, okay, here's what I should do. What first step can I communicate to clients when they feel the same way to say, okay, this isn't going to be your favorite thing, but let's start here. Just do this baby step.
Yeah, I think about this all the time. My girlfriend, she asked me, why do you choose to do something that you know it's so difficult and you have to motivate yourself to do it? And most of the days you don't see the results. You're really, you're posting something, it doesn't gain a lot of traction or it doesn't gain any traction. And you put all this hard work into it. And how do you motivate yourself to do the same? I think I have a very, very good situation, which is I'm building something that is true to my heart. I'm building Heirlight. It's kind of an extension of who I am as a person. I care about these topics. I love talking about these topics. But I also started a YouTube channel, and I am still in the process of being very cringe at myself. Right? I'm looking at these videos of me, and I'm like, what? Who cares? Why
Right.
am I even making these? But once in a while, I have to remind myself that, you know, doing all these tasks is the entry price to wanting to live the life that I want, right? If
Mhm.
I am so bold as to wanting to have my own company that affects millions of people, hopefully soon, that these tasks that I so dread to do, this cringiness of my videos, it's just the entry price to this ambition that I have, right? And of course, I can just stop all of this, give up, and go get a job. But then I'd probably be thinking about what if when I'm in this job.
Mhm.
I'd probably be
Mhm.
thinking about all the freedoms that I lost while I'm working at a job that I don't enjoy. And I think it's kind of a back to the question of like which kind of difficult tasks do you want to do? What kind of difficult are you choosing?
Right. And the interesting thing is, and I say this to my kids all the time, it takes that courage to get through something difficult, to do something you don't want to do. But the rewards are on the other side of that. And I think that's what you're saying too, is like the rewards of having a business that you love, that you are passionate about, that you know helps people, is worth the cringe factor of getting in front of a camera and doing the thing. I've heard this phrase, I don't know where I heard it, but if you're joining a gym, right? Because we all know we need to exercise. Most of us need to exercise more than we do. And I heard the phrase, the heaviest thing at the gym is the front door. And I just thought, yeah, that's right. If you can take that first step, do something toward your goal, then the rest of it comes so much easier. If I'm going to get changed, get to the gym, get in the gym, I'm probably not just going to turn around and leave, right?
Yeah, my entire mindset around how I look at my life and how I spend my time has shifted a lot. So, something we didn't touch on yet in this short podcast that we have is, I started Airlight. I started this idea of Airlight about a year and a half ago. And 4 or 5 months into building this, my mom suddenly died. She had a
Oh,
stroke,
I'm so sorry.
right? And I'm coming from a place now with Airlight of gratitude because of Airlight, at the time, it wasn't even called Airlight. We didn't even have a name for it. Because of this project that I was doing to get to know my mom better, to get to know her life better, I was able to get all these conversations with her, her dreams, the things that she missed the most, the people that she wished to talk to more. And of course, where's her 401k and all these things as a part of the will. But because I had these conversations, I was able to see my mom more clearly. I was able to have a relationship with her even deeper than what I had before. Right when my mom passed, I remember saying to her that, hey, maybe you should work less now because I think you have made the last dollar that you need to live. And every dollar that you make from this point forward, you're basically working for me. Because when you leave, you're just going to leave it behind for my siblings and I.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I really want you to enjoy the time that you have left, right? Not knowing that she was going to get a stroke in a few months. And
Right.
and when she passed, I remember thinking to myself, gosh, she's going to be dead for a very long time. But she didn't really squeeze the most out of the life that she had when she was still here. And and this is not coming out of regret because we did do a lot. This is just like such a reminder to me that yes, I can get a job. Yes, I can do anything else that I want to do. But in this very moment, I feel most passionate about this business that I'm doing, right? That I'm building in some ways in honor of my mom to spread this message, to get people to think about having more clarity in their life and also make a will. But at the end of
Right.
it, this is the path that I've chosen. And so I will not complain about the cringe. Some days it's hard. But
Mm.
I try to look at it with gratitude that, you know, I'm going to just try to squeeze the most out of the life that I have right now.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I know people that have a thankfulness journal that they do every morning. They just write down a few things that they're thankful for every day, and how that changes their perspective on things. Um, I think a lot of us as business owners, whether we sell coaching or consulting or some kind of service, people want to avoid purchasing something or pursuing something because they just see that immediate hurdle in front of them. They see, oh, I'd have to research and find an attorney who deals with wills in my area. Or they'll have to find somebody that does the thing or get in front of the camera or go to the gym or whatever it is. You have to focus on that light at the end. Like, here's just what it looks like on the other side. And I think the people that you mentioned stories, I think the really good storytellers are going to be able to communicate that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I was talking to a pastor yesterday morning about Heirlight, and he told me something that really caught my attention. He said, in his church, he's a pastor who also works for a hospital, end of life care and things like that. And he said, even people who want to go to heaven refuse to think about death, and they know to go to heaven, the path is through death, right? You need to
Right.
confront it, and yet they avoid it, right? Even with that amount of
Interesting.
conviction in their faith. It's very interesting to me. It's stuck with me the past 24 hours since I talked to him. But
Right.
being a business owner, I think it's a very unique type of mindset and a very unique lifestyle. This is my sixth business, seven, depends on how you count the
Wow.
projects. And I completely understand this. There's this tension between resources and time and headspace and context switching, right, to do all these
Hmm.
tasks in marketing. But yeah, if anybody ever wants to try, just have a chat GPT help prioritize some task. One thing that I find really interesting, I'm not sure if this has come up in the podcast a lot, is I don't think we talk enough about the input that we give our AI, right? We
Mm,
often think
right.
about AI as like, what outputs are we getting? But it's equally important if you want your AI to be very specific to your needs, to ask it, what information can I give you to help me be more efficient in planning my to-do list, for example, right? So,
Mm,
and I can simulate that really quickly. So if you go to your ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini and you say, I would like you to be very good at helping me prioritize tasks. I want to give you my to-do list and for you to tell me which are the things that I should be doing at any given time of the day. Ask me some questions to help you help me so that we can clarify, your job as my assistant. And then
mm,
the AI will then spit some question out to you, and it's probably going to ask you a few things such as, um, are you someone who plans by task or are you someone who plans by goals, outcomes? Right? That's two very
mm,
different kind of way of doing things.
mhm,
It
mhm,
may also ask you a question, for example, when you lose momentum, is it because of a lack of interest or roadblock friction? Like it's trying to understand you as a person so that it can help you plan out what you
mm.
have to do. Right? So I think there's there's a lot of tools now that helps us do that, and I'm very grateful for the technology that's out there, and I definitely use that to help me move through all the tasks that I have to do.
Yeah, I actually just did that the other day. Being an ADHDer, you get to a point where you're just like paralyzed because you have so much, you don't know what's more important, or you can't at that moment figure out what's more important. You're trying to reach a goal by a certain date, and things keep popping in your head and you don't know what to focus on, right? You don't know how to prioritize, or I don't. This is my problem. And same thing. I went to Claude and it's very helpful. It will ask you questions, even if you don't ask it to ask your questions, which is nice. But yeah, I think that it's really helpful. And I think that that can help you get past the difficult things that you have to do in your business, and also probably kind of help you think of ways, if you have clients or people that you work with that are struggling with the service that you provide, right? So once you really understand your ideal customer, AI can be really helpful in some ways to communicate, ways to connect with them, I would say, so that you can get to that point which they are ready to hear it and ready to act on whatever it is you're selling.
Yeah, I
Great
find it
idea.
super cool if I ask my AI, based on everything you know about my business, give me a report, right? So that it gives me a report of everything it knows. And oftentimes there's some mistakes because the
Yeah,
memory isn't perfect.
right.
And I love doing that because it helps me, one, zoom out a little bit and see the big picture, but also sometimes it also helps me think clearly to prioritize what is actually needed. I think it's such a blessing to have that.
Yeah, it's definitely changed my business. So tell me more about how people can connect with you. Tell me more about your business.
Yeah, so we are now live in 12 states out of the 50. You know, we are doing estate planning, right? So probate codes in all states are different. And it's very expensive to work with attorneys because we got to make sure our output's legally valid and very good for all our users. You can, I have a one of one name in this world. So my name is Jermaine E. I'm pretty easily Googled or ChatGPT or AI asked. But Heirlight is, you know, live on the App Store, and I'm always looking for partners. If you are listening to this and you have a wealth management practice or a adult daycare, you know, like these are folks that I would love to get in touch with. You know, I'm actually in this juncture right now. You talk about marketing. I know I can grow through B2B as a business. I know I can
Mhm.
partner with credit unions. I can partner with HR service providers, insurance. There's a few more adult daycares, hospice cares, and things like that. Funeral
Sure.
homes. That's the B2B route. But I am so maybe romantic about this idea that I can figure out my CAC to LTV and play that game and not have to
Mm.
do B2B sales. And and that's the juncture I'm at right now. We've almost figured out our meta ads. You know, we're getting a new customer at about $200 per sign up, but our subscription fee is only 149, and there's a few things there that I'm working through.
Yeah.
So it's very fun. I'm finding a lot of joy in the process of optimizing things. Um, yeah, I hope this message kind of resonates with business owners out there. You know, this is such a core tension of like what path to go in marketing.
Right. One to many versus one to one. I see your point. You want to be able to stay connected with the end user, right?
I think it's not even that. I think it's even the fact that I know if I partner with a financial services firm, what they want out of me is the relationship I have with my user. And for me, the
Mm.
relationship and trust that I have with my user is the ultimate prize, right? It's the prize that
Right.
if I have that, if I own that fully and not sell it to a financial services company, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I get to decide then what direction I take my product after, right? If I wanted to
Yeah.
build a phone scam detection company, right? If you know, I have this crazy idea that I want to be able to catch every time a scam call comes through. I want to track them. I want to log them down through my users. Because one of the texts that I get in my family group chat often was my mom would always say, "Hey kids, is this real?" And for us, it looks like a scam, but you know, my mom, she's not as tech savvy and she would ask us, I want to do that for everybody. I want to do that for every family out there. So if I own the relationship and the trust with my users, I get to go play in these directions that I want to. Whereas if I had to deliver a service to a hospice care, I'm a little bit more restricted.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, whatever way you decide, I think you're going to have a bright future. So thanks so much for being here today. And I will put all the links that we talked about in the shout outs for today. So thank you again,
Thanks for having
Jermaine.
me.
I hope you have a better idea about what motivates people to take action after our conversation today. For more information about anything we talked about, visit myweeklymarketing.com/164. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.